How's it going, everyone? My name is Max Novak, and today I'm going to show you how to use Adobe Substance Painter and After Effects to transform 2D logos into 3D. We'll do this by crafting intricate details and realistic textures that can help turn a logo into a reflection of a brand. This kind of project has an interchangeable workflow that can be used by graphic designers, motion graphics artists, and 3D artists alike. So let's hop into Adobe Illustrator to get started making our logo. Many of you will already be familiar with using Illustrator for 2D logos. I highly recommend it for this workflow because of this one specific feature here. Once you've designed your logo, you want to go up to the Window tab and select the 3D and Materials panel. From here, we can choose to extrude or inflate the 2D components of our logo into 3D. I want to texture each part of this logo individually, so I'm going to focus on one of these vector layers and then select extrude. You can adjust your depth settings and polish the look of it here. Another useful tip is to add a bevel. You can do so by just scrolling down to the bevel section of the panel and checking it on, and then adjusting the settings. Once you're ready, we can click apply to the extrude to add it to the asset export panel. If you're texturing the full logo like me, you're going to want to repeat those steps for the rest of the parts of the logo. Once you've done that, we can go over to the asset export panel again. We can hold down shift and select all of the parts that you want to export, and then we can choose the export as .obj option. So next, we're going to hop into Adobe Substance 3D Stager to prepare the model before we texture in Painter. In Stager, we want to go up to File and then Import and select those .obj files we saved from Illustrator. You can easily reassemble the logo parts together with the snapping features in Stager. Once that's set up and we're ready to texture, we're going to select everything and then go up to File and Export. To make things easier when we get into Painter, I like to export everything as a .usd file. So now we're ready to design our logo textures in Substance Painter. Let's go up to the menu bar and hit File, New. If you want the best results, change the texture resolution to 4K by selecting the 496 option here. Next, we can click Open here and select that .usd file we saved from Substance 3D Stager. As you can see, all of the parts of our logo are nicely sorted and UV unwrapped from the USD exports, so we're all ready to go. We're going to give ourselves a head start here by using a smart material. We're going to navigate over to the Materials window. I'm going to search for iron. And then in the Smart Materials section, I'm going to select this old iron option to fit this iron-working logo. For now, we can scroll down to the material settings once you've applied that and change the tiling option here. This will allow you to adjust how the material is projected onto our model. Now, before we move on, I do want to mention an optional step which can really add a unique touch to your logo. If you want to create your own custom materials for this, you can use the image to material feature in Adobe Substance 3D Sampler. Now, this is a really cool feature because, say for example, you're on location, maybe you want to use some of those real world materials and textures used by the business you're creating the logo for. All you have to do is take some pictures of those textures, load them into Adobe Sampler, and the image to material feature can transform those images into 3D materials. Additionally, if you don't want to take any custom images yourself, there's this awesome new Adobe Firefly feature inside of Sampler that you can use to generate your own. If you are using this, you can easily change the parameters to customize everything to your liking. Once you have that all ready to go, you can just click this little share icon here and click Send to Substance 3D Painter, and that way all your custom materials will automatically pop up in Painter. So now let's go back into Substance Painter. I want to show you an important concept here before we start adding all of the flashy little details. It's good practice to create a new fill layer. We're going to click on the mask icon here and create a black mask. Next, we're going to isolate the channels. And you can do this by selecting all the channels individually and turning them on and off. So for example, I'm going to disable all of these channel switches except for the roughness channel. Now we can adjust the slider to focus on only the roughness of our material. If you'd like, we can even search for a texture like this cloudy 4 option and then drag it onto our roughness layer to create a custom roughness map for that material. Make sure when you're doing this, you're paying attention to how these layers are stacking. The layer system works a lot like Photoshop, so many of you should already be familiar with this. I like to think of the layer stacking as a sandwich. It just helps me visualize a bit better. So you can use those steps for any of the other channels here, like your base color or your height, for example, just to isolate and adjust any of those little details. We can also change the viewport to view only those channels if you want to make things easier when texturing. So now for the fun part. Let's take a look at some real world references to help create our metal material. As you can see, there's a lot of rust and dust, especially in the cracks and crevices. We can easily recreate this in Painter by using some generators. Remember, you'll get the best results with this when you baked your model first. So if you haven't already, click on this little bread icon, select the model parts, and click this button here to bake the model. Once you've done that, we're going to go up and create a new fill layer. Click on the mask icon here and add in a black mask, and then click the wand icon and add in a generator. We're going to rename this layer to Rust Effects. Scroll down here and click to search for a generator, and we're going to search for the Rust Effects generator. Now in the Rust Effects generator, we're going to have some custom parameters here. You can change those around to get whatever rust look you'd like. Once you're done customizing that, we're going to have this nice realistic chipped metal look. Now we're going to add in some more realism here by creating another fill layer. And this time we're going to add a generator again, but we're going to go for the dust effects generator. Dirt and dust can add a lot of realism to your model, even if it's not naturally a very dusty or dirty material. So let's go down and adjust the parameters to add a little bit of dust around the edges of the model. And always remember here, you can click back on the material icon to adjust the base, roughness, and height values, as well as change the color. That way you can easily blend in the dust with the overall material. All right, so now we are ready to bring our logo over to After Effects for use in our motion graphics workflow. This is easy to achieve with our new After Effects 3D features, as well as this export to After Effects option in Substance Painter. After Effects should automatically open up and import in a textured GLB model. So in After Effects, we're going to create a new composition, and then I'm going to import in some stock footage from Adobe Stock. Now, a cool new feature of After Effects 3D is we can add some lighting to our model. So we're going to go over to the Layer tab, and I'm going to click to create a new light. In this light type drop-down menu, we're going to select this new environment tag and then click OK. Now we can go over to the Substance 3D asset library and search for an HDRI environment file. I'm going to choose one that has similar lighting to the Adobe stock footage that we're using just to match a bit better. HDRI files are going to give you this realistic 360-degree lighting. All we have to do is just drag in the HDRI or EXR file, hide the visibility of that layer, and then select that layer under the environment light sources drop-down box. From the light settings, you can adjust the intensity as well as rotate the environment to help hone in your lighting. Now, finally, we can add some animation to our logo. I'm going to open up the layer options here and click on this stopwatch icon to set a keyframe. Let's drag a bit on the timeline and then adjust the values for the opacity. I'm also going to do the same with the y-axis here. Let's create a simple keyframe animation just so we have this fade in and spin animation. Now I'm going to blend this all together even more just by adding in some dust and spark overlay clips from Adobe Stock. Simply just drag in the files and then adjust the blending modes to your liking. And there we go. There's so much more you can do. You can add sound effects, any other effect from After Effects, but either way, here is our final composition. Like I said in the beginning, this is a great workflow that combines several practices into simple and straightforward steps. With the Adobe Creative Suite, working between these different softwares is very simple, and this process allows you to step outside of your comfort zone and create some fun and unique projects like this. So that's all for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial.